Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another recruiting throwback video. This time, kind of a laid-back video, just talking about some different recruiting oddities I found throughout the rankings. Just random stuff I found weird, little quirks, crazy classes, teams signing multiple five-star cornerbacks, multiple five-star running backs. Just wanted to look back at some weird things. And the first thing I'm going to show, when I used to be on the message boards, we would make fun of Michigan consistently because they had this weird obsession with the state of Massachusetts. And it was really like a Don Brown thing when he was the defensive coordinator at Michigan. But I went back, and I believe this is the class of 2020. You take a look at, these are the top 5 players in the state of Massachusetts. The number 1 player goes to Michigan. The number 2 player goes to Boston College. The number 3 player goes to Michigan. The number 4 player goes to Boston College. The number 5 player goes to Michigan. It was a weird fascination with the state of Massachusetts. And what's funny is this year there's actually an elite offensive tackle who currently is a 5-star from the state of Massachusetts that Ohio State is recruiting. I think Michigan's recruiting. It's really early on the kid's recruitment, but it's not looking like he's going to go to Michigan. So all of that time spent in Massachusetts, you finally get a 5-star offensive tackle, and it doesn't even look like they're going to land him. But they just had this weird obsession with the state. That's the first thing. Another thing that's interesting, I mean, listen, this is the Travis Hunter situation. You know, the number 1 player in the entire nation going to Jackson State. It's definitely rare. If NIL was not a thing, would this have happened? I highly doubt it. Now, what I'll say about Deion Sanders and Jackson State, Deion Sanders was going to attract some form of elite talent to Jackson State, whether NIL was involved or not. You know, he would have gotten several 4-stars there because people want to play for Deion Sanders. It's cool, and you've got the whole historically black college thing. With the transfer portal, you can transfer out if you don't like it after a year and get immediate eligibility. But, you know, without NIL, this specific case, Travis Hunter, the number 1 overall player, I would have been shocked if he would have went to Jackson State without the help of NIL. And Deion Sanders, he didn't pay him. Jackson State didn't pay him. This was a situation, we know it was facilitated, the deal that Travis Hunter got through a company. He got a multi-million-dollar deal to go to Jackson State, with a multi-million-dollar NIL deal. The next thing, this was kind of a weird quirk. I believe this was the 2019 class, maybe. You've got Alabama signing back-to-back-to-back 5-stars all in a row. The number 5th overall prospect, the number 6th overall prospect, the number 7th overall prospect. Antonio Alfaro, one of the biggest modern busts in recruiting history, didn't play a single snap, ended up transferring to Colorado, where he didn't play a single snap for Colorado, and now I believe he's at a Division III college. It's a real sad story. Never ended up playing a college snap. The number 5 overall player. Trey Sanders is on the verge of being a bust. He's been injured his first 2 years at Alabama. And then you've got Evan Neal, which they nailed. They nailed the Evan Neal pick. They had him at the number 7 overall player. He ends up getting picked coming out as a junior. He ends up getting picked 7th overall by the New York Giants. So that's always cool when that happens in recruiting, when they nail it. He ended up going, 7th overall. This is a very unique situation. Now you look at this, I don't know what class this was, maybe the class of 2014 or 2015, but you have 2 5-star linebackers, both from the state of Alabama. Both, top players, the number 10 overall player, the number 16 overall player, Ben Davis and Mack Wilson, both commit to Alabama, and both, for all intents and purposes, end up busts. I mean, Mack Wilson, I think, was picked in the 5th or 6th round by the Browns, and he's played here and there. Ben Davis was just a complete bust. It's just very interesting. You've got 2 5-star linebackers, both from the state of Alabama, both commit to Alabama, both end up busts. One of them doesn't even get drafted. The other one goes in like the 5th round. This is interesting. When Georgia tries to get skill position players, you've got Jacob Easton. That's a bust. He ends up leaving and goes back to Washington. You've got Mecole Hardman. The Mecole Hardman situation, I just think he wasn't big enough. You know, it just didn't translate. And also going to Georgia, number 12 overall player, we understand he was extremely fast. I mean, you see him on the Chiefs. He's a legitimate NFL weapon, but he's not, like, when you're thinking about the number 12 overall player, you're expecting a Deebo Samuel type elite athlete. And Mecole Hardman, I just think it's due to his height. He's athletic, but he's just very short. They've got him listed here at 5'10". I wonder if no way he's 5'10". Kyler Murray is 5'10". I think he's probably 5'11" by now, but he is small. And then Isaac Nata, who I think was drafted in the 7th round, the rare 5-star turned 7th round pick. I want to do a video on every former 5-star that was drafted in the 7th round, because obviously being an undrafted free agent as a 5-star, you know, you're labeled a bust, but even a 7th round, it's like worse if you get drafted in the 7th round as a 5-star. This kid, I want to say he was drafted by the Detroit Lions. I don't know if I just made that. Maybe he was, but I do believe he was drafted. Again, this is a situation, if you're Georgia, it's like we've had such big issues on offense. We get a superstar quarterback. We get a superstar athlete we can use as a receiver. We can line him up as a running back. And then we get a superstar tight end, the number 1 tight end in the nation. These are 3 top 14 overall players, 3 5-stars, and really none of them worked out. I mean, Hardman, you know, he had a decent career at Georgia, ended up going in like the 3rd or 4th round, but yeah, that was a funny class. This is Ole Miss's famous class back 2013 when they blatantly cheated. They've got Robert Kimdichi, the number 1 overall player, rated a perfect 1,000, Laramie Tunsil, and Laquan Treadwell. And I will credit Ole Miss. All 3 of these guys turned out to be first-round picks. Even Robert Kimdichi, with all the off-the-field problems, the Arizona Cardinals took a chance on him late in the 1st round. It didn't work out. I believe he ended up going to the Miami Dolphins. I don't know where he is currently. Laramie Tunsil, you know, the story with him on draft night, he was going to be like a top 5 pick. Oh, there was a video released of him hitting a friggin' gas mask type bong, and he ended up falling to number 13th overall, but he got a massive deal. He's a solid tackle in the NFL. I think the deal that he got a little overpaid by the Houston Texans. And then Laquan Treadwell was a 1st-round pick who ended up being a complete bust. But I remember Laquan Treadwell, he was a beast at Ole Miss before he suffered that crazy injury. He suffered a real gruesome injury against, I think, Mississippi State. That was the Dak Prescott Mississippi State team when Ole Miss and Mississippi State were both like top 10 overall in the country. But yeah, you got to credit Ole Miss. Listen, they cheated to get these guys, but they were all developed at least into 1st-round picks. I developed is a term used, you know, loosely, but it is funny how they actually all ended up 1st-round picks. The next thing we're going to look at, how about Virginia University signing 2 5-stars, 2 top 12 players? How about the state of Virginia producing 2 top 12 players? Quinn Blanning, who was a 5-star, number 6 overall player, number 1 safety, and then Andrew Brown. These guys both were complete busts in the NFL, but it's just an interesting quirk in recruiting when the University of Virginia, 2 guys from Virginia actually stay home. Normally, Virginia is a place, when there's a big 5-star, he'll go south, he'll go to Clemson. Even North Carolina's been tapping into Virginia recently with like Tony Grimes. So, you know, that normally they're kind of a feeder state, but it is funny to see Virginia getting both of these guys, getting 2 top 12 players to stay home. The next one, this is a very unique scenario here. So this is the number 67th player in the entire nation from Dayton, Ohio, an outside linebacker, committing to Northwestern. So, you know, the number 3 overall player from Ohio, he had offers from everyone, and he ends up, that's got to be one of Northwestern's most highest, maybe their highest rated recruit in program history, honestly. And then you've got, here's another one, Deandre Brown. This kid's from like the class of 2008 or 2009. The number 12 overall player, the number 3 receiver in the country, goes from the state of Mississippi, stays home, not with Mississippi State, not with Ole Miss, Southern Miss, one of the all-time stories, Deandre Brown, top 12 player in the entire country, goes to Southern Miss. And I looked up his career at Southern Miss. It's a real sad story. He had such an unbelievable freshman season, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, and then ended up dealing with some injuries, especially his junior season, ended up going undrafted in the NFL. So it didn't work out for him, but still, what a unique story. The number 12 overall player, very similar to like Travis Hunter going to Jackson State, except, you know, there was no NIL to facilitate it. And then you've got this situation. You're never gonna. This is one. I talked about this in my recent video I did on the running back class of 2007. You've got the top 2 running backs in the entire country, both going to the same school. You're never gonna see something like this again. So Joe McKnight, the number 1 overall player, and Mark Tyler, the number 7 overall player, number 2 running back, both going to USC. There were some shady things that happened in Joe McKnight's recruitment. Apparently, you know, he's from Louisiana. You would expect LSU to be the favorite. They were the favorite until National Signing Day. Reggie Bush got involved a little bit, and he ended up at USC. A bit of a surprise. Mark Tyler, not surprising him being from California. He ends up going there. This is also something I don't think we're ever going to see again in terms of recruiting. You have the number 2 and the number 3 overall players, both running backs. Now, with the shift we've seen in terms of NFL, you know, in the NFL draft, NFL teams not valuing the running back position, especially within the first top, 10 picks. I do not think we will see a running back inside the top 5 of any sort of recruiting rankings going forward. And you've got Najee Harris, who ended up a first-round pick as the number 2 overall player, he ended up going, I think, 24th overall. And then Cam Akers, who had a solid college career, but he was really at Florida State, during a bad down period. And he is now a starting running back with the Rams, and he's a really solid running back, although I do not expect the Rams, I don't know when his contract's up, but the Rams will probably just let him go to free agency. They really don't like re-signing guys. Just another quick cork that I wanted to talk about. Ohio State, this is the class of 2021. Ohio State signed 2 5-star quarterbacks in the same class. And you wonder, how is that possible? It's basically never going to happen again. It's because Quinn Ewers reclassified. And really, you look at it, they signed McCord in 2021. You're on to the class of 2022. Quinn Ewers is the number 1 overall player. But with the NIL, Quinn Ewers gets a little greedy. He wants the money immediately, and he's, puts Ryan Day in a really bad spot. He's like, I want to reclassify to 2021. Quinn Ewers should have just stayed in 2022. He had the even year thing where he probably would be the starter next year at Ohio State if this is his true freshman season. Listen, I'm not going to kill the kid for getting money. He could still, become a top 5 pick in the NFL draft at Texas. They've got a lot of talent there for him. But just in terms of reclassifying, I'm sure Ryan Day was not happy that Ewers reclassified because it completely effed up the quarterback room. You can't have 2 5-star quarterbacks in the same class. Somebody's going to transfer. And what ends up happening, Quinn Ewers plays 2 snaps against Michigan State and then transfers after his true freshman season. And now we know he's at Texas. Probably going to be starting week 1 for the Longhorns. This kid's got a ton of talent. He was rated the perfect 1,000. A lot of people don't remember with Quinn Ewers how his recruitment went. So originally, the first guy Quinn Ewers actually camped for back in 2017, 2018 was Ryan Day. This is before, 2022 recruiting rankings even existed. The first guy he camped for was Ryan Day. He ends up committing to Texas when they had Tom Herman. He, ends up decommitting, committing to Ohio State for 2022 before the NIL craze took over. NIL goes into effect. Ewers wants money immediately. He realizes he can reclassify. He reclassifies to the class of 2021, which was a major mistake for at least Ohio State. When you're looking at it, just the way your quarterbacks are set up, you don't want 2 5-star quarterbacks in the same class. It is going to create an inorganic quarterback room. I remember talking about it, and that's exactly what ended up happening. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, you take a look at You take a look. Here it is, the defensive line class rankings of 2022. Texas A&M signing 4 of the top 18 overall players, all defensive linemen. That's what NIL looks like. That is a crazy NIL collective right there. Not just 4 top defensive linemen, 4 5-stars, 4 guys ranked within the top 18 of everyone. And Jimbo says, no, we didn't pay for anyone. Come on, man. You're insulting people's intelligence. It's ridiculous. But I just wanted to end it off on that. I don't know if you'll ever see something like that again, where you sign 4 5-star defensive linemen, and, one of the guys reclassifies from 2023 to 2022 to sign because he probably got an NIL deal. That's how bad it was. But that is just, in Texas A&M's class was just, I don't think you'll see it again, because even if Texas A&M weaponizes NIL in 2023 like they did in 2022, which it's looking like they're doing, you take a look at the recruitments of Reuben Owens and Dante Moore, getting very interesting. I expect Texas A&M to sign another top 2 or top 3 class. They were so far ahead of everyone else when it came to NIL in 2022. I don't think we'll see a class like that again, where you legitimately sign, 8 5-stars, 4 5-star defensive linemen. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that type of influx of talent, they're going to have to really create a culture within their locker room, and you're going to see guys transfer out. You will. And it'll get ugly. With them, it's like a locker room problem because they've got so much young talent. They're all on massively lucrative NIL deals. How do you manage that within the locker room? If I was a Texas A&M fan, I would want to get these true freshmen on the field immediately. Use this year as more of a learning opportunity. You've got to go on the road, to Alabama anyways. You're probably not going to win the SEC West. Use this year as a learning opportunity for guys. Get them as much playing time as possible. Try and prevent as much high-end talent from transferring out as possible. And also boosters can help with that as well. If you've got a guy that's teetering on the edge, we saw it with Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy of Texas was looking around a little bit this offseason. I'm guessing he got a new deal from a booster within Texas to make sure he's happy, with the situation at Texas. So I think that's another dynamic at play. If some of these 5-star kids, after their true freshman seasons, maybe they're not getting a lot of playing time, do they threaten to transfer in hopes of getting a better NIL deal? This is an issue with NIL, folks. I'm sorry. It's just a complete mess. We will see what ends up happening with this Texas A&M class of 2022. It will be historic either way. But guys, that is going to do it for this recruiting throwback. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.